DND number 11, Circle of Life, in Jesus' Name, Part 3, Chapter 8. He tried to pull into the parking lot of Jordan's apartment building, but it was blocked off by a line of police. Several young people stood around watching and wondering what was going on as police went about securing a crime scene around the dumpster on the other side of the hedges. Eric drove down the road and parked on the street and walked back to the apartment with a large piece of luggage and knocked on the door. He saw someone peek through the peephole, and then the door swung open, and Eric nodded at Colton. "Eric, come in." He stepped inside. Jackie was sitting on the couch. He nodded at her. "Hello, Jackie." "Eric, do you know what's going on? And do you know where Jordan is? She's not answering her phone," Colton asked. He nodded. "Jordan is on the way to the hospital. She was attacked tonight. It looks like attempted rape. She's pretty messed up." "Oh, no," Colton cried. "So I'm guessing neither of you were home when it happened?" "No, we just got home about 30 minutes ago, and right after we did, the police were like swarming the place." "Have they been up to speak to you yet?" "No," Jackie said. "Well, I'm sure they will." "Where did it happen? In the parking lot?" Colton asked. "She was taking the trash out." "Anyway, I'm here to pick up her things." "What things?" "Whatever she needs for the next several weeks. That's why I brought the luggage. She's going to stay at my house, and I need your help to gather her stuff." "Oh, yes, of course. Come on back to the room," Colton said. "How bad is she?" Jackie asked as she joined them in the bedroom. "Well, she won't need her softball stuff because her foot and ankle are both broken." "Oh, no, she's going to be devastated," Colton said. "Probably, but right now I'm more concerned with the head injuries and the throat injury." "Throat?" Jackie asked. "Yeah, the guy tried to strangle her." He pulled out his phone, pulled up the pics Taylor sent, and handed the phone to Colton. Both girls gasped as they stared at their friend. "So," Eric said abruptly, "where do we begin?" They went to work gathering all of Jordan's things and packing them into the large piece of luggage Eric brought. Then they gathered her toiletries and put them in Jordan's own smaller bag, including her purse with her wallet in it. When they finished, young Eric told them if they needed anything to let him know, and if they wanted to come visit Jordan, they were welcome to do so. He then took the luggage out to his car and came right back to the parking area. When he tried to cross and was denied, he told them he wanted to speak with Agent Trout. A minute later, Agent Trout walked up and waved him inside the police line. "Was there video?" Eric asked immediately. "Yes, and it's pretty ugly. The good thing is his face is clear on the video. He's a student at UCLA. They're picking him up now if he's at the address provided. The bad thing is there has been 3 other rapes reported over the past 3 months. One of them actually took place a little earlier tonight. They're thinking right before he came upon Jordan taking out the trash. Same M.O. He strangles them into submission and rapes them. The others weren't as violent as what happened to Jordan, probably because she fought so hard. Anyway, they should be speaking to him any minute. So they'll have him in custody before I can get to him." Trout's eyebrows shot up. "You just get those thoughts of revenge out of your mind right now, Eric," he said firmly. "I understand how you feel. I really do. But I know that's not how a Kino operates. Do you hear me?" Eric sighed and nodded. "Okay, sorry. I lost control for a minute. May I see the crime scene?" "Yes, come this way." He led him to the dumpster area. Jordan's blood was smeared all over the white concrete and white rocks. It turned his stomach. CSIs were still scanning the area and taking samples from the blood that was on the dumpster. Oh, and Jordan's phone was found at the scene. It's cracked up pretty bad. They're going to take it into evidence for a bit, so I'd get her a new one if I were you. Eric nodded. "May I see the video?" "Yes. Jason will provide you with that. He's probably already sent it to your dad." "Are the detectives going to speak with Colton and Jackie?" "Yes, 2 of them just headed up to the apartment." Eric nodded. "I guess I'll head home then. Or you can stick around because they're going to want to speak to you too, and it will save them a trip down to Crystal Cove." "Oh, okay, I'll stick around." He sighed and looked around, then back at Agent Trout. "How would you feel about coming back to watch over Jordan again?" "Well, I'm a little soft when it comes to our girl, so I have no problem with that, only it's not my call. I'm being promoted, and Jason and Joey may have other plans for me. You're the best, and I want the best, young Eric stated. Well, the Jets are the best. I'm only a lead agent. Eric looked closely at the guy. So, what is your background? How long have you been in Ameritech? I've been with Ameritech 2 years. Before that, I was with the San Francisco Police Department, and before that, I spent 4 years in the Army. Oh, you were in the military. And so, why are you not a Jet? Trout shrugged. It's not for everybody, and I have a bad knee. You do? Nothing big, just an old injury that causes some pain and lack of movement. How did you get hurt? Football? Trout gave a short laugh. Nope. A little bit of lead poisoning. It's not too bad, but enough to keep me humble. Still, I'm really happy to be an agent for Ameritech. They're the best. Fair, honest, and not corruptible like the SFPD. I had to get out of there, and Ameritech offered me the perfect solution. Eric nodded. Interesting. He smiled. So, are you still seeing the professor? He nodded. So far, but I don't think it's going to last. Why not? Well, she's already making comments about the time I spend on the job. Ameritech is who I am, and if she can't handle it, then it's not going to work out. But she's fun to be with. She's interesting. I'll just have to see how it plays out. He nodded behind Eric. So here comes the detectives. I'll stick around and witness if you want. Keep them honest. Eric nodded. I'd like that. Thanks. New scene. It's October 29th, the wee hours of Tuesday morning, South Keno Estate, Crystal Cove, California. While young Eric waited for Jordan to come back from the hospital, he sat in the den with his father watching the video. The rest of the family had gone back to bed. Bree didn't want Taylor to see it and escorted her to her room and had a talk with her about what happened to Jordan. Eric felt sick as he watched his beautiful girl fight for her life. Jeffy said the guy was demon-possessed, and watching the video, he had to agree. It was like he was driven by a force so evil and so angry that nothing would stop him. The way he went after her, it didn't seem to make sense that some kids walking by would make him run away. Even as he had that thought, he realized it was divine intervention. He glanced at his phone. It was after 1 a.m. It was taking longer than Jeffy had predicted. Son, as soon as they get back, you need to try to get some sleep. 6 a.m. comes fast. Young Eric glanced at his father and shook his head. I'm not going to train. Yes, you are. Dad, are you kidding me? You think I should leave Jordan and go train at a time like this? I do, and I have good reasons. So when you're ready to hear them, you let me know. But you better get ready sometime between now and 6 a.m. I am not going to train, and if that means I won't be able to fight in the challenge, then I won't fight. Ricky shook his head and heaved a heavy sigh. I wouldn't figure you for having a knee-jerk reaction. Young Eric leaned over, rubbing both hands over his face and hair. I'm listening, he said with a sigh. Do you remember when Lena was raped and they waited to tell Jake until after the mini-mart? Yes. It's kind of like that. What's happened is over. You can't change what happened to Jordan. There's nowhere to go from here except forward. But opting out of training and or out of the challenge is a career killer. Your producers and the studio are depending on you to win the challenge. I realize it didn't start out that way, but once you agreed to compete, they've played it that way completely. And not only are they depending on you, but so are the other people who did that movie with you. The writers, the director, the other actors, that kid who was doing his first real movie. They are all depending on you. You can make them or break them. And you have to think of someone other than yourself. I am. I'm thinking of Jordan. Are you? What does that mean? Jordan is going to recover from this episode in her life. She's strong. That's evident from the strength she showed trying to fight this guy off. So once the initial shock wears off, she will recover. And then she'll realize that you stopped training and therefore aren't prepared to fight in the challenge. And she'll realize that you won't be able to win, and it will all be because of her. It's not her fault she was attacked by some crazy, Eric said. No, of course not. But she won't see it that way. She'll think that because she was in your life, you were unable to achieve your dreams. She will blame herself, and that will eventually come between you two. And that is too much weight to put on her shoulders right now. She already felt responsible for your kidnapping. She did? Yes. She said if you hadn't known her, then you wouldn't have been taken and it was all her fault. Well, I hope you set her straight. I did. But I'm telling you now, do not let this change what you're seeking to accomplish. You are about to make it big, which means you are about to have the opportunity to be a light to the world, to do some real good, to be a huge influence. You think the dark forces of the world don't know that? They know, and they'll do anything to stop you, including hurting those you love, so that you'll quit. So don't quit, son. Don't let the bad guys win. If you don't want to listen to me, I get it, but at least take time to speak with Dad. Eric's brow furrowed. Dad, you think I'd listen to Granddad, but not to you? Ricky shrugged. I'm just saying. Young Eric shook his head. Dad, I have just as much respect for you as I do for Granddad. You are both my heroes, both, and I'll listen to you, and I don't need to back that up by asking Granddad. I'll be up at 6 in the morning and I'll do what I have to do, so don't worry. I won't let the bad guys win. Ricky smiled and nodded. Thank you, he said, with a twinkle in his eye. Young Eric smiled. And don't think I don't know what you just did there. Ricky chuckled. Eric picked up his phone when it buzzed. They're back. Cam carried Jordan in the house, took her upstairs, and placed her gently in the bed. They untucked the covers at the foot of the bed and uncovered Jordan's foot so that they could elevate it, then covered the rest of her with a sheet and a soft Sherpa blanket. Young Eric looked her over. Her face had been cleaned of blood and had a few stitches up on her hairline, covered with a small bandage. The rest of the scrapes on her face had a layer of honey dressing for wounds. Both arms were bandaged. She wore a Kino martial arts t-shirt, and he couldn't see her stomach, but thought the scratches there would also be treated with honey dressing. Even though he couldn't see her right leg, he could tell there was also a bandage on her knee. Jeffy stood beside him. We gave her something for pain, so she'll sleep for a while. If she wakes and is in pain, you can give her one of these, she said, shaking a bottle of pills. These are strong. No more than one every 4 hours, but she can have tea. She held out another bottle of pills, and these are antibiotics and should be taken with food. Eric nodded. I'll text all this to Mom because I won't be here tomorrow. Jeffy nodded. Good decision. I agree, Cam said. So what did the CT scan show? Eric asked. Well, there is some inflammation, and she has petechiae around her eyes, but the trachea was not damaged. Her blood pressure is back to normal. She's going to be okay physically. Emotionally is another story. Her emotions will be all over the place for a while. So be kind and be loving, but be firm. Don't let her fall into victimhood. I don't know how to do that. We'll talk to Dad, Jeffy said. And one more thing you can do is to win the freaking challenge. Young Eric grinned. Aunt Jeffy, I love it when you talk tough. I talk tough because I am tough, and so are you. Now, get some sleep. My suggestion is you sleep in here with Jordan, because if you don't, you'll just worry the rest of the night. Eric nodded. That you don't have to tell me twice. Jeffy put her hands on his face. I love you. Love you too, Aunt Jeffy. She kissed both his cheeks. Cam offered his hand. You need anything, Eric, you let me know. Eric smiled. Are you for hire? He is not. Stop that kind of talk, Jeffy fussed. Cameron chuckled. Good night, kid. Offer stands. Come on, Jeffy, let me get you home before you go into early labor. She sighed. I am tired. They left and Eric closed the door. He laid his phone on the night table, took off his jeans to be comfortable, and slipped into bed beside her, sliding up close to her side. He didn't dare touch her because there wasn't a clear place on her body where she wasn't injured. He did softly lay a hand on the top of her head, though, and asked a blessing upon her, then closed his eyes and went to sleep. New scene. It's October 29th. It's early Tuesday morning, South Keno Estate, Crystal Cove, California. He woke at 5:30 a.m. to the sound of Jordan whimpering. He put his hand on her shoulder. Jordan, he whispered, it's okay. You're safe. Her eyes blinked open. 3? Yes. She moaned. Are you in pain? Yes, my foot, my leg, it's throbbing. It hurts so bad. He sat up. Can you sit up if I support your back? She struggled to sit upright. He handed her a pill. Take this. It should help. He reached for the bottle of water, keeping his other hand on her back. She took the pill, and he helped her lie back down. Hopefully that will kick in pretty soon. Thank you, she sighed. Am I back at your house? Yes. You don't remember leaving the hospital? She shook her head. I don't remember much of anything except the guy at the dumpster trying to kill me. He ran his hand over her hair. I'm sorry, babe. I'm so sorry. I can't figure out why he attacked me. Young Eric shook his head. Sometimes they don't need a reason other than they are simply evil. The look in his eyes, it was like this wide-eyed, crazy look, like literally crazy, like he'd lost his mind. He's a psychopath. He's raped several girls there at the college. She turned slightly in surprise. You know who he is? They were able to get video from the cameras at the dumpster. He's a student. They'll learn more later today. They who? The police. Who called the police? We did. Dad called Jason and he got the police and also sent Agent Trout to follow up. Apparently, there has been several college campus rapes in the last few months. The administration kept them quiet, and there may have been even more than we know about. The guy strangles the girls to unconsciousness and then rapes them. Up until last night, he's never done it where there was a camera. But he wasn't thinking about that when he came upon you. He'd just raped another girl a little earlier. Jason thinks the others were planned out, and you were like a bonus. But that's what got him caught. They caught him? Yes. They took him into custody last night. That's all I know so far. I think they're going to talk to the other girls, maybe try to get them to ID him, but that may not work. Why not? Because Jason says most of the other girls reported he was wearing a mask, which means your testimony will be vitally important to the case, and the cops will probably come talk to you sometime today. Jordan shivered, and he moved closer to her. We'll get through this together. You and me and my family and... He stopped when his phone alarm went off. He sighed. I have to get going. Where are you going? He drew a deep breath. I have to go train. Oh, yeah, I forgot about that. You understand that I have to do this, right? Yes, of course. I have to win. I know it's important to you, and that means it's important to me. It's important to us, because it will dictate the direction my life will take, and my life includes you. So, in essence, I'm fighting for you, for us. I have to succeed, and I will, because your love makes me strong. She nodded. It's your love that made me fight so hard last night. All I could think about was I was never going to see you again. And then I thought, guess I'm about to meet Jesus. And he said, not yet. And then some people came by, and I guess it scared the bad guy away. Jesus spoke to you? Yes, I heard him clearly. He said, not yet. Eric smiled. Do you realize how beautiful that is? That tells you Jesus is mindful of you, Jordan. He was with you. Well, if he was with me, I wish he'd helped me. Or maybe he did. Maybe the people coming by, the ones that scared him off, maybe they were sent that direction. It wasn't your time to die. But why couldn't he have kept it from happening? Well, God never said we won't face difficulties. He did say he will be with us through those difficulties. The things we face, they make us stronger. But Jesus was there with you, and I find that comforting and beautiful. He sighed. But I have to get going. She nodded. Uh-oh, she said suddenly. What? I have to use the bathroom. How in the world am I going to do that? Eric smiled and got out of bed and went around to her side, grabbed up the crutches Cam had placed there the night before. Let's get you up and see how you do. He helped her sit up and eased her foot off the pillows. Now, when you put your foot down, it will probably hurt a bit. She nodded as she slowly eased her foot over the side of the bed. Oh, yep, it does, she grunted in pain. I'm sorry. He helped her stand and got the crutches under her arms. How does that feel? Steady? She nodded. I think I can do it. I'm going to walk beside you to the bathroom just to make sure. Okay, she said, already breathing hard from the pain. She winced a few times, but they finally made it. He looked into the bathroom. Are you going to be able to sit down and then get back up? She nodded. Yes, I got it. Thanks. I'm going to go get ready. I'll be back before I leave. Thanks, 3. I love you, Jordan. I love you, too. He stood there as she softly closed the door. Then he turned quickly and headed out to his own room. How is she? Taylor said as she came out of her room. She's in pain, but she's a lot better than last night. Could you do me a favor? What you need? She's in the bathroom. I just want to be sure she can stand back up and make it back to bed. Taylor nodded. I got it covered, she said as she went into Jordan's room. She knocked on the bathroom door, and when Jordan didn't answer, she opened the door. Jordan stood staring into the mirror, the water running in the sink. Jordan, Taylor said softly. She turned to look at Taylor. Tears ran down her cheeks. I didn't realize it was so bad. I look like a monster. No, the monster is what did this to you. It's going to heal, and you'll be right back to gorgeous, Taylor said. Jordan shook her head. You have to be gorgeous in order to get back to gorgeous. Stop, Taylor ordered firmly. You are beautiful, Jordan, and if you didn't know that, then you're just dumb. Jordan laughed. Taylor, you have a way of always making me smile. I love you. Taylor grinned. I love you too, sis. I really do. Now, are you going back to bed? She nodded. Let me help you get settled. Jordan dried her hands, grabbed the crutches, and hobbled back to bed. Taylor arranged the pillows under her foot and then studied the cast. She went to the desk, searched for and found a marker, and came back. I get to be first, she announced. She bent over the foot, drew a heart, then wrote, To my big sis, I love you, Taylor Keno, and then drew a second heart. Jordan smiled. I love it. I gotta run. I'm late for the beach, Taylor said quickly. I'm guessing Mom will be up to check on you in a few minutes. Bye, Jordan. Have a good day at school, Jordan said as the beautiful sprite disappeared. She wanted desperately to roll onto her side and go back to sleep, but sleeping on her side was not an option with her foot elevated, and taking her foot down was also not an option. She just closed her eyes. It didn't take long at all for her to become drowsy. Jordan? She opened her eyes to see 3 hovering over her. I'm sorry to wake you, but I just wanted to say bye before I left for the day. I'm glad you did. What time is it? It's 7:20. He bent down and placed a kiss on the right side of her forehead, the only place not covered in scratches or cuts or bruises. I'll see you sometime between 5 or 6 this evening. Her eyes filled. Oh, now, sweetie, it's going to be okay. You're going to have lots of visitors that keep you occupied. You won't even notice I'm gone. She sniffed. Have a good day. I will. You know why? Because you're alive. And I'm so grateful. So my mom will be in a bit with some breakfast. She already came in earlier, but you were asleep and she didn't want to wake you. He adjusted her covers and smiled at her. Bye, 2-3. She frowned. I guess you can't call me that anymore. He realized he'd messed up. He sighed. You might not be able to play right now, but you're still on the team. I'm going to lose my scholarship. Not necessarily. Let's look into it. But right now, I gotta go. He kissed her forehead again and left quickly. New scene. Bree looked up at the sound of someone coming down the steps. Jordan, what in the world are you doing? She hurried over to the steps to try to help her. Jordan smiled and took another cautious step down, then lowered her crutches to the next step. Hey, Mrs. Keno. 3 told me you were going to bring some breakfast up to the room, and I thought you shouldn't have to do that, and I'll just come down to you instead. May not have been a good idea, but it's too late now. She grunted as she made it down the last step. Bree sighed. Okay. Well, have a seat here at the bar and turn slightly sideways, and we'll lift that leg up to the rest on this other stool. She helped her get settled, then went back around to the kitchen. I'm making you a healthy, healing smoothie for breakfast. Do you think you can get that down? Jordan nodded. Yes, ma'am. Bree turned the blender on and pulled an insulated cup from the cabinet, then turned and ran up the stairs. She came down a moment later with both antibiotics and painkillers. Jordan sighed. So, you had to run upstairs anyway. Silly me. Bree smiled. Running upstairs is good for me and no problem. She poured the smoothie into the cup, added a straw, and gave her the antibiotics. These are antibiotics, she explained, and Eric said he gave you a pain pill about 5:30 this morning. Is that the only one you've taken? Yes, ma'am. So you can have another one in 30 minutes if you need it. How's the pain level right now, 1 to 10? It's about a 6, I guess. Okay, then we'll give you one in 30 minutes. Jordan nodded. Bree smiled, reached across the counter, and brushed some of her hair back. It would probably help the pain if you would not move around too much, like go up and down stairs. Jordan grimaced at the soft reprimand. Yes, ma'am. How's the smoothie? It's delicious. It tastes more like a milkshake than a smoothie. Good. Drink it down, and then we'll get you cleaned up and settled. I guess I can't take a shower. Well, not yet. Eventually, when all the scrapes and scratches have begun to scab over. Right now, there's too much possibility of infection. What about the cast? Do I have to wait until the cast comes off? No, there's a bag that goes over the cast when you are finally able to take a shower. But for now, I'll help you. I won't invade your privacy. I'll get you some soap and water and towels and help you if you need it. I'm not really very shy about my body. I guess I shower and dress in a locker room full of girls all the time. We don't think too much about it. And I don't want to get all smelly because, I don't want 3 to see me that way. Bree smiled. I understand. I've been married to Ricky for 22 years, and I feel the same way. And it's good to be as presentable as possible for our men, even though they say they don't mind. Like when I've been working out and I'm all sweaty, or when we go camping, but still, it's important how we feel about ourselves, too, as long as we don't get all caught up in our appearances. Jordan smiled. That is a cool thing for a woman to say who was thought of as one of the most beautiful people in the world. Bree shook her head. Isn't that silly? It's just because of the movies. They make you look gorgeous even though you're just a regular person. Mrs. Keno, you are not just a regular person. Well, that's sweet, Jordan, but I actually am. Now finish your smoothie. Jordan took several long draws on her straw. Are we the only ones here? Jordan asked. Yes. Ricky went to help train the boys, Taylor is at school, and Desi and Alec have driven away in their new car to do some shopping. What you guys are doing for them, it's so beautiful, Jordan said. Bree brushed it away. We try to help whomever God puts in our path, and they are such sweet kids. As a matter of fact, I have an appointment with Alec's mother this afternoon. You do? Wow, that's, brave, I guess. What are you going to tell her? I'm going to give her a report on how her son is doing and let her know what a good young man I think he is. And maybe teach her a bit about how she could have better handled everything. That is, if God works the conversation around to it. It's not my place to judge, but if I can open her eyes a little, well, that's up to God. I'd be nervous to go and confront someone like that, Jordan said. Oh, I'm not going to confront her. I'm just going to tell her about Alec and the new plans for his life, and maybe help her to reach out to him, and then she'll feel at ease that he's going to be okay, and she'll feel immediately regretful that things went down like they did. And I'll help her to get past that, and maybe teach a bit of whatever God places in my heart, and that will be that. You are so cool, Mrs. Keno. Stop. So, are you going to handle Desi's parents, too? Bree grinned. Well, they are going to be a little more difficult, and Ricky's going to speak with them first, and then I might come in later. Ricky didn't want me to go there alone, just because her father was quite upset with the whole situation, and Ricky doesn't want me to be in a potentially dangerous situation. So we'll work as a team. Again, you guys are so cool. Oh, my goodness. Even if I wasn't madly in love with 3, I think I'd knock on your door and beg you guys to adopt me. Bree laughed. Life with us is not as easy as you might think. We work hard every single day, and we don't worry about just our little family of 4, but our huge extended family, and our huger circle of friends, and all the people we work with, and then the people that work with our people, and it goes out to include thousands of people every day. It's a big responsibility. So speaking about that, I have 2 loads of laundry I have to get done and several calls I have to make before I go to my appointment. She reached over and picked up Jordan's cup. So I'm going to do up these breakfast dishes and get to it. Please let me help. Bree laughed. You, young lady, are going to go back to bed. Jordan frowned but nodded and obediently swung her leg off the bar and gingerly stood up. She went to the stairs, placed the crutches by the bottom of the step, placed her good foot on the first step, and pressed herself up onto it. She looked up at the long staircase and sighed, wishing she hadn't come down, because going up was going to be a lot harder, and she was feeling a little dizzy and a little nauseated. Bree watched her and made a decision. Jordan? Jordan didn't turn but stood on the first step and nodded. Yes, ma'am. I'm thinking you shouldn't attempt going back up the stairs. Why don't you go into the den instead? You can get all comfy in the recliner and maybe watch some TV if you want. Jordan looked up the stairs and carefully backed down off the first step. I'm sorry to be so much trouble. You're not trouble. Come on in the den. They went into the den, and Bree left her for a moment while she went to put a load into the washer. Then she gathered a basin and some supplies and came back to the den and helped Jordan get cleaned up and put on fresh clothing. Jordan brushed her teeth, and Bree brushed her hair, and finally she gave her a pain pill, tucked a comforter around her, leaned the recliner back, and handed her the remote. If you need anything, just yell. When are you leaving? Not until the afternoon, but don't worry, sweetie. You won't be alone. I won't? No, and as a matter of fact, your first visitor should be arriving any time now. First visitor? Who's coming? Your mother. Oh, she chewed on her lip. You called my mom? Yes, I did, and I hope that's okay. Jewel is my good friend. I know if something happened to Taylor, I'd want to know immediately. Why? Were you not going to tell her what happened? Well, it's just that she's had so much trouble because of me, and I was thinking it would be best if she didn't know. She already has so much to worry about, just trying to raise my sister and brother by herself. I didn't want her to have to worry about me, too. I mean, like, I'm okay. Well, good, then tell her that when she gets here. But, Jordan, it would break my heart if Taylor didn't tell me something, because she didn't think I was strong enough to bear whatever she had to say. Jordan nodded her head. I guess that would be how it seems, huh? That I think she's not strong enough. Bree nodded. I guess I need to apologize to her for not calling her right away, but you know what, Mrs. Keno? I guess sometimes I do wish my mom was stronger. I mean, when I was little, I wished that she would stand up for me against Peter. Bree smiled. Well, don't be too hard on her. From what I understand, when it came down to it, she did stand up to your stepfather, finally, and took your side. Your mom is very sweet and very kind, but somewhat diminutive in her personality. And when a man, a big strong man, is as manipulative and overbearing as Peter was, it was probably very difficult for her to see what was happening or even to know what to do about it. But she finally did. And I'm sure she feels very guilty about bringing him into your life. But she's also torn because without him, there would be no Josie and Jamie, and those two are super special kids, don't you think? Yes, ma'am, I do. So what is there to do except everyone forgive everyone, let go of the past, and move forward in love? Jordan nodded. Right? You know, you Kenos, like the whole family, you are all so wise, so smart. Bree laughed. Well, it may seem like that, but I do what my mom says she does, which is stumble down the correct path. We see through a glass darkly, but we follow God and His Son, both of whom we see very clearly, and we trust them. So, in everything, even concerning you, we, my husband and I, and I'm sure Eric too, we pray, and for you, we ask God to lead us and give us the words to say that can help you. That's all that is. I take no credit of wisdom, and I give God all the glory. And there you go doing it again, Jordan said with a smile. Bree laughed. Jordan, you are adorable. And the more I get to know you, the more I understand why my son is so smitten. Now you rest and heal. Yes, ma'am, Jordan said with a smile, thinking about 3 and his mother saying he was smitten. That was a nice thought. Bree left the room. She ran upstairs to check Jordan's room and straighten it up for her since she was incapacitated, and then to both Desi's room and Alex's room to see if they needed anything. She noted that Alex's bed had appeared again undisturbed. It wasn't up to her to judge, only to offer the correct situation for now until they got married. And in order to do that, Bree was really hoping to get the parents involved, which meant the relationships had to be healed, or at least reestablished. Then the wedding itself would go a long way to heal them, or completely destroy them, she thought with a smile. It was another 30 minutes before security at the gate buzzed Bree to let her know Jewel Perez was coming up the drive. Bree met her at the front door. "Jewel, so nice to see you." Jewel looked up worriedly. "I'm so sorry I'm late. I had a hard time getting off of work." "No worries. Jordan is in the den, and the last time I peeked in at her, she was sound asleep. The pain meds Jeffy prescribed are pretty strong." Jewel nodded, wringing her hands. "I can't understand why she didn't call me immediately." "Well, don't be too hard on her," Bree said with a smile. "She was in total shock. She actually doesn't even remember driving here. Rick thinks she instinctively drove to the person that makes her feel the safest, and that would be my son." She was a mess and not thinking clearly at all. Bree walked toward the den. "Come on in. Can I get you anything?" "Oh, no, nothing. I'm fine. Thank you so much for taking care of my baby girl, Bree." "It's my pleasure. For real. We love her. You've raised an amazing young lady." She stopped just outside the den and sighed. "Now, brace yourself, because she looks bad. She smacked her face on the concrete when she was fighting with the guy, but she's going to heal just fine, Jeffy says." They entered the den, and Jewel bent over her daughter and peered at her face and couldn't suppress the gasp. Oh, my poor sweet girl," Jewel said softly as tears welled in her eyes. Jordan's eyes blinked open. "Mom?" "Oh, yes, baby girl, I'm here," Jewel said with a sniff. "Mom, don't cry. I'm okay. Really, I am." Jewel nodded. "What other injuries do you have?" "Well, the worst one is my foot is broken in 2 places, and my ankle is broken. And Dr. Kino says the ankle fracture is the hardest to heal, but the bones are aligned perfectly, and it will heal." "How did your foot get broken?" Jewel asked. "He twisted my foot trying to turn me over." "Jewel," Bree began, "we have a video of the attack if you really want to know what happened to her. She doesn't have a lot of memory of it." "I want to see it," Jordan said. Bree shook her head. "I'm not sure you're ready for that. I'll ask Eric Sr., what he thinks." "What other injuries do you have?" Jewel asked, changing the subject. Jordan shrugged. "I have a concussion from bumps on my head. I have a lot of scratches on my arms and stomach and right knee. Other than that, I'm okay. I promise." "Well, I'll leave you two to talk," Bree said as she excused herself. "Mom, I need to apologize to you," Jordan began. And that is the end of chapter 8.